Pictures, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wayne in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hey everybody, and welcome to Show X on VTWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT this Sunday, the 7th of January, 2018. Hey everybody, and welcome to the first show of 2018 officially. How is it going, and how are you doing today, Ken?
January, 2018. Jesus. Now I can actually think it's next year I had my PhD. That's just terrifying. Anytime I hear any date, I always just instantly just turns to work for me in my mind. It's just so... it's terrifying. It's really, really, really scary. How are you?
Doing better than that, I'd say. No, doing good. 2018, it's just another year. It's the beginning of another time. It's time to reflect on what we did last year and look forward to all the things we might be able to pull off this coming year. It's a good time.
Each to their own. Only those in the video could see the expression of extreme fear in my face. Apprehension.
What is there to be fearful going into the new year?
Lots of things. Deadlines. I've got so many deadlines and so much fear. I don't even want to talk about it. Just too much scary stuff. Way too much scary stuff. Yeah, opportunities, yeah, nice things and all that, but oh man.
Ha!
Yeah. So how have you been, sir? How have you been? What have you been up to? I'm sorry I've not been here for a while. Being in a different country with no equipment and very poor Wi-Fi makes it very difficult to do the show. And never mind the family obligations I had as well. I mean, I think I probably would have been.
I was gonna say you were out. You were doing family things. You were with all of, I believe it was your wife's family over in Geneva again, correct?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Saw lots of pictures you posted from that. It looks like you guys had a lot of fun celebrating the holidays.
Yeah, we really did. So in my household back in Scotland, or sorry, my family's household, my parents' house. What we would traditionally do on Christmas is we'd get up, open our gifts, and it'd be decorated and stuff, and like otherwise it'd be a normal day though. We'd have dinner as well, which would be nice, but it's pretty much just a normal day. Whereas what we did in Geneva was we celebrated pretty much the whole time we were there. It was like 10 days or whatever of just sheer celebration. Like every single day would be loads of tasty food, we'd be baking, we'd be making Christmas cookies, or we'd be out snowshoeing, or we'd be drinking every single day. Oh man, so much alcohol, so much booze. Nice. We went to Geneva and had a few drinks there with some people that we met there. Yeah, it was just constant celebration and fun, and it felt like a sort of Christmas movie. That's exactly what it felt like. It was a Christmas movie. I've never really had a Christmas that felt so... I don't know, meeting the expectations of society, I guess.
Well, did they meet your expectations?
Oh, absolutely. I loved it. It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. We really, really enjoyed it. And Kitten's parents are just so generous, so kind to share their household with me and bake and cook for me and help clean up every single day and stuff, and just organize everything through the whole holiday season. That just made it really feel like a home, and it was really nice, and it was really great to sit and hang out with like my sister-in-laws and Aslan, who came over from the US. She was there as well. So yeah, it was all the sisters were together for the first time in something like 3-4 years. So it's nice to have them all together, and then seeing the four of them interact is just great, because the last time they sort of interacted, the two younger sisters were like sort of almost teenagers but still like children. Okay. And but now they're like many adults, and so it was just weird seeing the four sisters, even though like there's been so much growth and times changed and jobs changed and all this stuff's happened, they're still just so close, and it was great to see. It was really nice to see. The four of them like just becoming this sort of like cohesive unit of sisters who are still like, you know, fun and childish, but still like also adults and it's just great. It was just really nice. Because I'm not very good around kids, so the fact that it felt like like an adult environment was good as well. It was just great. It was really fun. I couldn't see any way to improve it. It was just a fantastic Christmas.
That's good to hear. That is wonderful to hear, in fact. I know I had good holidays myself, and so being able to kind of follow along with what you were doing was really nice. See the photos that you posted and things, and that actually makes more sense now because I saw so many photos posted to know that it was a continuation of celebration throughout the entire time you were there.
Oh yeah, I think we actually went to 4 parties, including hosting 2. One of the ones that was hosted had 70 people show up at the house.
Wow.
Yeah, it was lots of people, and that's why one of the days I posted photos, I ended up being like the unofficial photographer. When they had that little photo booth set up, and I was like, well, hey, I've got my camera. Do you want me to? And they're like, yes, please. And so, I ended up taking photos of every single person that was there, and there was like props and stuff with like Christmas hats and whatever.
Nice.
It was nice. Yeah, it was a good opportunity to like. They also, one of the things that they gifted me was a portrait photography book. So I was like, perfect timing.
Nice.
I could actually read through this book and get some tips for when I'm actually doing it. So yeah, it was a great opportunity, and yeah, there's just so many parties. We went to a Hogmanay, a New Year's party, at one of Kitten's parents' friend's house, and yeah, similar thing. Just loads of booze, loads of food, lots of nice people with interesting jobs and stuff. I mean, I met one guy who worked for he's quite high up in the Department of Energy in the US. And he was talking about how he's on like the hippie non-nuclear side.
Oh,
And I ended up talking to this guy for like 45 minutes about work because it turns out we had vaguely similar backgrounds, and so we ended up managing to chat about that.
Nice.
And yeah, so many celebrations, so much drinking, so much fun. But anyway, I want to hear more about your Christmas. Please tell us about your festive season. What did you get up to?
So I'm not going to go back through everything because I did do shows in between and let the fans know what we were doing, what I was up to. So I'm not going to go into all of that again, but I had multiple celebrations for Christmas myself. It was multiple weekends in a row because I got to celebrate with my friend Hyde's family. I got to celebrate with my friend Zenko Akko, their families down in New Mexico when I went down to Albuquerque again. And then got to do another little mini one-day celebration with friends locally at my house where we did a little gift exchange as well. And so I kind of had 3-ish Christmas events that happened throughout, which was really nice. I really, really appreciate getting to get out and kind of do other things than just where I would normally either hang out here on my own or with limited family. And especially since my main family group back in Nebraska wasn't getting together this season, just schedules didn't work out. And so it was nice to have surrogates and to be able to do things around here a little differently. That was a ton of fun. Also,
that's sweet. That's really nice.
Yeah, it was neat to see, like, one of the things I've really been pushing that I've enjoyed, and I kind of have been inspired-ish to try to maybe do it this next year, is I really like understanding, knowing, and kind of seeing other people's traditions. Because I found that
I get that now. I get it.
Holidays is kind of one of those things that you may not think about it openly in just like your everyday life, that how many traditions or expectations or things you're just kind of used to doing around your family group, or just what are meaningful to you growing up, where it may not even seem like it's a big deal, but it's something that it may not feel as much the holiday without, because you're just so used to it happening. And I've heard stories now from people all about, because I ask everybody, and when going out and being able to enjoy these things with other people, I got to share some of mine, I got to ask theirs. One of the ones that I talked about for my family was with the way we do gifts and stockings and things like that. Everything happens on Christmas Day in my family. I think in my ex-wife's family, we had done like one present on Christmas Eve or something like that. And I've heard others who will do stockings on Christmas Eve, stuff like that, or stay up late, just all kinds of different traditions, right? And so for me, it was being able to, I did some silly things. I got stockings for each of my little family, like local group of my friends, and got a bunch of puff paint and little markers and had them all decorate their stockings. And these are just like cheap little $1 things or $2 things from Walmart. But had them decorate them all, and then I put like candy in all their stockings. Nothing major, just little things. Just little things for each of them, because I think for me, receiving stockings was always a big deal. And the way it worked in my family was, when you got up in the morning, the only thing us kids could open without parents or everyone being together was our stockings. Because, you know, stockings were from Santa and such, and they were the thing you were allowed to open right away. And so they often would have like socks and this little nothing, or like little Christmas thing to wear that day, or in many cases just like candy and stuff that you could eat and snack on before the parents got up. And it allowed my parents to sleep in a little bit after having stayed up all night to, you know, wrap gifts and do things for us. And then another part of the tradition, and this is something I kind of made each of the groups I was with do while I was there, to some level, was whenever we open presents in my family, it's always in the order of age, starting with youngest to oldest. Always. Oh. And so with that, anyone
like all the gifts, like the okay,
whole pile of gifts.
So like the youngest person will open all their gifts, and they have to. Okay.
And our reason behind that is that way the little kids are always the ones who get most impatient. They can have all their toys right away and go play, and then as adults we can kind of watch everyone else open their things and appreciate what everyone got. And it's always just worked out well for us. And like again, every group has their own way of doing things, but that was something I shared from my traditions this year. And then I got to hear and understand some of the other things from people, be it types of meals they will have or how they do family gatherings. One of the things in Albuquerque we got to do is go down and check out the Luminaries tour, which is Luminaries, for people who aren't familiar with them, are basically little paper sacks that they will fill with sand and put a candle in. And what they do is they use those instead of Christmas lights all around their yard and all around like parts of the house and stuff like that. It's a very New Mexican tradition. And it's really pretty because, I mean, it's not as colorful as you'll normally see because it's just like paper bags, kind of that brownish paper sack, and just littler ones, little kind of lunch bag size. But they'll put it all over the house, and in New Mexico they have a lot of flat-roofed homes and like walled homes with adobe and such, and so a lot of times they'll have these all over the walls and up on the roof line and stuff like that of the houses. And so when you walk by, you just see this kind of like whole building filled with these little candles everywhere. Well, something I've been to New Mexico a lot of times, seen Luminaries, but I'd never been in Albuquerque to see the tour where they actually have an entire neighborhood that basically shuts down. They shut off all the lights in the neighborhood, the street lights, everything else like that. Wow. And basically all the houses have Luminaries up. And so it's just
that's sweet. They make a real event then.
Yeah, oh yeah. And so that was something I never experienced and was a lot of fun. And so, like I said, that, foods, different meals, anything like that, they're traditions. So I've been looking forward to, and I may do it this coming year, where around the holidays, setting up another thing more for friends to get together, but have it something where everybody brings a tradition, be it a food dish or a game they play or something like that, where we all kind of share in some of each other's family traditions, just to kind of show what's meaningful to you, because I think that'd be really neat. So
yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So what we did with the Baxter counties is we got up in the morning and we said like everybody has to be there for 9 o'clock in their jammies. So the night before, all the sisters got like a set of like pajamas, like Christmas pajamas. So they all had the same matching stuff.
Nice,
which is cute. So you know, as when they're really young, that's like a super cute thing to do, and it gets them all excited. And as they get older and older, it's just a kind of funny thing almost. Like it's still enjoyable, but in like a comedic kind of cutesy way.
I saw a picture of all the girls in their matching outfits.
Yeah, it's adorable. So we get up in the morning and we do stockings first, but we did it kind of in order, so but not in terms of like age. We just sort of sat in a circle and we all opened one thing at a time. But we'd go around again and again and again and again. So I mean, a lot of waiting in between. But and we tried to do like smallest gift to biggest gift, but sometimes it didn't work out because we don't know who got who what. So, they did it in the sense of like it wasn't all from Santa. Everybody wrote like this is from me to you. So you know the gifts from me and Kitten that are going to like sister number 3. You know, might not be as good as the gifts from sister number 4 to sister number 3 or whatever. So we can't always define what the order will be or whatever. But yeah, we went through like that, and it was neat to see that kind of tradition because we don't do stockings back in In Scotland, well, at least my family in Scotland either. All we really did was just the Christmas just presents, and that's it. Just usually it'd be me who gets, since I was an only child, it'd be me who goes first, and then that's it. So it's also weird for me to see how to do it with sisters, etc. Because I've never had any brothers or sisters, so it was nice.
Oh
to
yeah,
see.
being an only child versus having siblings and stuff, and seeing how it all interacts. That's a big difference.
Yeah, something I'm not used to at all. Yeah. But that was one of the best things about the holiday, was experiencing, like, at one point I was sitting there getting ready for us to go out to one of the parties, and all the sisters got excited about something and started singing, like, and then they put on some music, and it was like some like 90s boy band, I don't know.
Oh no.
And they were all like singing away, and I was like, okay, I've now experienced the good points and some of the bad points of having like a family of sisters. Jesus Christ. Like, they're all the best time of their life, and I'm just like, I can't escape the boy band. It is everywhere. There is nowhere I can go right now to not hear the boy band.
That's a different kind of experience.
Yeah. But it was fun. It was fun, really.
Nice.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal away from you again.
Oh no, that's hilarious. And yeah, no, again, I'm a big fan of traditions and kind of those experiences, because, you know, you grow up knowing what you know and kind of seeing what other people did and what's important to them. To me, is really neat. And so that's where it kind of came up for me. So yeah, no, that's really cool. Like I say, I appreciate it. So I like it. Let's see, what else? So with that, other than the holidays, big thing for me then was New Year's. And so Christmas was kind of like lots of little things. Got some gifts here and there, nothing huge. I did get from brother-in-law Pokemon and my sister Pokemon Go Plus, which I really like, the little watch that lets you, it ties in, and so you can hit that to like get Pokestops.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff. I will tell you, that changes the game. All of a sudden, I am catching so many things, and I actually have Pokeballs all the time. It's really nice because I'm able to do stuff while like going around doing other things, and even like where they say don't play while driving. Well, the nice thing is you can close your app, put the phone down and such, and while driving, if it just buzzes, you just tap it and keep going, and so you don't really have to do anything, take your eyes off the road, anything like that. And so it's really nice. Now, driving, mind you, is limited, because if you're going over about 30 miles an hour, it won't really do anything, but it'll still register Pokestops, but you will be going too fast to catch them. You have to be going under that to actually catch them, which also sometimes, I will admit, makes me drive slower in some places. So maybe there's an added bonus. Weird. Pokemon Go making safer drivers. Unlike all the news reports you hear. But that, and like I said, just some fun things from my friends and everything. Had a handmade stained glass symbol made by my friend Hannah, where she makes stained glass, and she did it for each of us in our group with little ones for our characters that we represent from Voltron. It was really cool. So like I said, just all kinds of fun little neat things. Beyond that, though, really for me the big one was New Year's, plus and minuses on New Year's, where group of mine and like a larger overall group of people from work and some others got together downtown Denver for the White Rose Gala event, or dance essentially, which is a fancy style New Year's event happening at the Opera House downtown in the Performing Arts Center, which is really neat because I've never actually been in the Opera House, and unfortunately don't go into the main area. It's more just around the outskirts of it. But they had set it up in a venue that was a black tie event, and so quite literally dressed to the T's, but it was also a fancy 1920s theme. And so very much kind of the speakeasy time frame and the roaring 20s. So gals in like flapper type dresses and various kind of ado and furs, and all big guys in suits and tuxedos and stuff, where I had actually went and purchased a vintage 1920s tuxedo that I found in a store. And so I wore that.
Nice.
And so I actually have a tuxedo now. It looks really nice.
Very nice. It's a useful thing to have. You never know where you're going to need a tux.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I needed to, although day of, as we're trying to get out of the house to go, couple things. One, I also wore a bow tie with it. And then my friend Zenko Akko, as well as Hyde, were all part of our group going. Akko had a suit, but basically what it was is Zenko took one of his old suits and added some satiny black to it, and like looked at my tuxedo and modeled off of it, and was able to in a night essentially tear it apart, put it back together, and make the suit now look like a tuxedo jacket.
Okay, that's impressive. That
really
sounds
cool.
like magic to me, but okay.
Oh yeah, trust me, it was too, because I kept looking at it thinking he was wearing a tux. And then realizing again...
Transmogrification.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that's the suit that was like on my floor 2 days ago or something like that. Huh. Also, she took my bow tie, patterned off of it real quick, took some of the same fabric, and made a bow tie for him. And put it together and such. And they looked really good. So...
Wow.
And these are bow ties, mind you, not the old clip bow ties, but full on, had to tie, learn how to bow ties. So had to be legit for this party.
Wow.
So that was really good. And then the gals looked absolutely amazing. Zenko took a black dress she had owned and then just some kind of gold patterned fabric that was shimmery and cut it out to make it into kind of a wrap that went over the dress, and suddenly it looked like a 1920s vintage dress. Because she's equally amazing in that.
That is magical.
No, she really is. She's insane, but so skillful. Hyde had an amazing dress and hairpiece and had her hair all done up with little, like, the short style bob and curls and such. Just looked phenomenal. Like I said, they all looked amazing. Akko also wore one of Hyde's top hats, a felt top hat that she had, and he just seems to be able to rock any of that old classic style of clothing. He just really looks good in it. And so he wore that all night. I think we were just short of not getting him a cane and white gloves to wear.
Oh, nice.
But he looked phenomenal. And so overall, it was a fun event. We spent far too much money on it. I mean, tickets, we got a VIP pass, which we utilized some of. Probably didn't need the VIP for what we actually did. I mean, it was nice for getting drinks and for accessing like a restroom that was kind of away from the crowds. But beyond that, we had spent more money, or kind of as a group less, I guess it would have been per person, to get a private area that was kind of our own little speakeasy area they'd set up.
Nice.
And so it was an interesting event, though, because when we got there, it was supposed to be doors open at 9. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, they didn't actually open the doors for us to start walking into the facility until about 9:15, 9:20, which wouldn't have been a big deal, except at the same time it was 10 degrees here. And so trying to do the math,
cold.
Talking like negative, what, 11 or so, or negative 9
yeah,
or so?
that's very cold.
See? And so, because it wasn't warm, and we're all in nice outfits, but again, gals in dresses and things like that, it was uncomfortable. But eventually we got in there. They gave us little pinned roses things, a little, not a whole, I don't know, it was fine. There was a little concern where it was like, wait, what are we getting for VIP when we paid more than twice what everyone else did? So, things to note, maybe wouldn't do that again. The speakeasy was nice. It was kind of weirdly set up, though, because where they had us in the event, they had a larger stage downstairs and kind of an open area with a big dance floor. And they had a lot on the stage. They were having live music. They were having dancers come up and do shows and all these different kind of events. Well, our speakeasy kind of ended up right behind it. And so you went up the stage, like the same place people would do to get to like where the DJ was, and we were actually walking back and forth behind the DJ. But they had set tables up back there that were for us. It was nice because we were able to kind of keep ourselves away from everyone else, and oddly enough, being right behind the stage, it was a little quieter than it was being in front, right where the speakers are facing. And so it was a little bit like we had our own little like getaway area. Challenge was because they didn't give us a bouncer or anything, there were a lot of people who kept wanting to come up to our area, and we had to kick out.
Right.
We were like, sorry, we paid like $850 extra for this. Go away.
Please, unless you want to refund me, you can leave.
We were jokingly saying like, yeah, it's basically $75 a person for. We had a decent sized group for it, but it was like, so if you want in here, hey, feel free, pay us some cash. Which I mean, mostly it was fine, and we get most people out, but it was just one little tidbit where that, and it felt like there was a little bit of just disorganization at the beginning of the event. As it started kicking off, it seemed better, and admittedly, one of the main event coordinators that was there, a gentleman that was just in kind of a crazy suit, he really did go over the top to kind of make sure our group was mostly happy. He realized we had invested a lot of money in the event as a group, because I think
that's good, because you know that's several employees' wages for one night you guys paid together. You know, you paid for like a bunch of their staff.
I would say that our group alone, just from attendance, probably was somewhere in the range of like $2,500 we had spent for this event. Which I don't do that for events, really. I do that for silly stuff, but not events like a night. I'll do that overall at a convention weekend maybe, but kind of things. But geez. So anyhow, but it was good. The music was phenomenal. They did some great. The DJs were good, where they did a bunch of mixes from older songs and new songs that then sounded old, where they made it sound like 20s vintage. That was a lot of fun. And so we just kind of knocked away the night. All of a sudden, New Year's crept up on us suddenly. All of a sudden, it was like, bam! Oh shoot, 10 minutes till New Year's. And then we stayed out till I think the thing shut down about 1:30 or so. We had been lied to and told it was going to be like 5 in the morning, but eventually it shut down earlier than we expected. So, oh well. But we had a good time with that. Afterwards, we all came back to my house. I mean, not all. We were going to go to a restaurant afterwards. Like everyone, we were going to go to IHOP or something, somewhere to have breakfast after everything. Well, apparently us and everyone else in town thought the same idea, because by the time we showed up at the one we were going to, it was packed with like a 45-minute wait, and we were all like, nah.
So that's a good question, actually. What's your kind of tradition normally on New Year's Day? Is it quite common for people to go out for breakfast or go out for lunch or dinner? Or?
Well, most people, it's recovery, or in many cases like here, it was work. For me, this being just New Year's morning, right after finished being out, we were going to grab some food and then go home. For us, what we instead did on New Year's Day was essentially just hang out and just relax. Hung out at my house, I think got some breakfast, or just, I want to say I might have made breakfast or something for everyone. But we mostly just kind of relaxed. And at some point, I think it was that day on New Year's Day, we went swimming. We actually went to, I had found, we were talking, I think the night before or something, some point we were talking, and Heidi had kind of brought it up like, man, I'd really like to go swimming. I don't know what we were talking about. It came up. I was like, this can happen. And so I found, well, it's cold out and such, so it's kind of like the idea of going swimming right now is kind of difficult. Most of our pools are outdoor. But I was able to find an indoor pool that we could go to, and we lucked out that on New Year's Day it happened to be free day, because it was part of a recreation center, and normally you'd have to pay to access it. And so when we showed up, they were like, oh, today's free. Bonus!
Nice!
So we were able
After
to
spending all the money the night before, you think to yourself, great!
Oh no, it was double bonus. But we also, mostly it was like we went to soak in the hot tub kind of thing, let people's legs and feet recover and things like that. It was just nice. It was just nice to kind of get out, do a little something physical that wasn't strenuous, and just kind of enjoy it.
Nice.
And other than that, we just kind of hung out, surprisingly late, because I did have to work the following day, and I think I finally had to kick them out close to like 8 or 9, where I was like, you guys can stay, because I know none of you guys have to work tomorrow, but I have to work tomorrow. So I'm going to go to bed. And they ended up all heading out shortly after that, too. It was funny because over the weekend, they had, both for costuming and stuff, had so much stuff at the house that it was one of the larger exoduses from my house than has been in a while. All the bags and things like that. But it worked out. So that was a lot of fun. And got them out and about. So that was great. So New Year's was fun. I don't know if I would do that event again, but it was nice to get out and do something a little different.
It's a good story to tell, if nothing else. I mean, it's a pretty cool event. Like the idea of it.
It was a neat event. And there were other stories within it and just fun. Plus, I had a lot of fun because my little brother's in town. I'll get to that later, but he came out for New Year's as well, and so he and I got to dance together, which we don't get to do nearly enough. And apparently people somewhere kind of appreciated seeing that. You've seen me dance, Ken, so imagine
yes, I have.
My younger brother and I
legendary among my family and friends.
Oh, God. So my younger brother and I dance very similar in a lot of things.
Right,
and
nice.
we were able to kind of play off of each other, and so dance very similar as we were doing things. And apparently people appreciated that look or whatever it was we did. I've heard from multiple occasions that there were comments made. It was funny, at one point in the speakeasy, there were some gals on the stage right next to it that kept asking us to come dance with them. And so we kind of stayed behind our little velvet rope and just danced on the steps of our own little thing. That was entertaining. But, anyhow. So it was fun to have my brother out as well.
Classism there, very 1920s.
Right. We're better than them. Why? What?
You're only allowed through here if you can pay the fee.
So anyhow, that was a lot of fun. That all went across, and then the next thing that we did is I also helped. Basically I did. I hosted and kind of worked with pulling my group together again to celebrate Hyde's birthday, because it was that just a couple days later. And we were able to completely surprise her. We had set her up by saying, I'd actually worked with her mom to say, like, hey, could you get her out of the house so we could come decorate? And then show up her house, and I set up this whole My Little Pony themed party for her. to make it as childish and fun little birthday party that we could, and celebrate in a way that when she came back in and got home, we hid in the corner and waited till she walked in the room where all the decorations were and jumped up and wished her a happy birthday, kind of thing that truly surprised her. And that was a lot of fun. So I was happy I was able to kind of coordinate, get all our group together, get a cake and all the decorations together so we could do that. She seemed to really appreciate it. We spent the day kind of just playing board games and such, and hanging out and celebrating her birthday. So did a lot of various celebrations, from basically entering the end of Christmas through the Hogmanay and through like all of this. So it was fun. And finally, let's see, for my dysfunctional deviations this week, yesterday, as I am recovering today from, and I don't know what I did to myself, but part of the whole reason my brother was in town, or is in town right now, is that he was paid to come shoot a wedding. And so in that, I backed him up as a second photographer for the wedding. And actually conscripted Hyde to join us as well as be a third photographer. And so we got to participate in an event up at a beautiful event center I'd never been to before, didn't even know existed, but is one of the best venues for a wedding I've seen inside a building, because everything was right there. They had a place for the ceremony, and then they walked over to the next wall, and that was where the reception was happening. As well as they reconfigured the ceremony area back to the dance floor. It was just really well done. And they catered it right there, and DJ that was there was amazing. Just a really awesome event with people I'd never met, but was a gal that my brother had coached back in college when he was doing coaching out in Nebraska. And so she had known him for years from there, and he's done photography for multiple times. And so she had very much said, "You are going to shoot my wedding." And cool. Which is great. So he came out with, and they all shut it out here. And it was just really pretty, and probably one of the most entertaining and fun weddings I've ever been a part of or been around. Everyone was in such high spirits. Nobody was a downer. They all danced the night away. It was just really good. It was beautiful. Nice. Her dress was phenomenal. All of it was really good. And with the three of us,
usually there's at least one person, getting drunk and vomiting or making socially incorrect comments or something, being overly racist.
So I never saw anything during the wedding itself that was bad. The reception, there were definitely a few people that had something, because it was an open bar. And so
they don't happen here very often for a reason.
Well. So again, really good group. And with the open bar, people were having drinks and having fun. There were a couple, and especially this one gal who had significantly more alcohol than I would say everyone else. Now, she was having fun and was dancing to the tease. Tried dancing with myself and my brother, especially myself, multiple times. Always a bit awkward, because I would try to dance with her and she was just kind of doing her own thing. Like, I think it was to the beat, and it was energetic, but I couldn't really keep pace with her. Like, normally when I dance with a gal I don't know, I will try to follow whatever they're dancing, because if I lead in just like regular kind of hangout dance, then they can never follow me, because I throw in too much ad-lib and I break beat and do a bunch of other stuff. And so they always kind of get intimidated and run away like, no! So I'll follow them, and I'd usually do fairly well. With her, I could not. I don't know what was going on. But she was having fun. She ended up dancing like with everybody and was constantly running around. But it was never a mess. And so even with her being very lit,
that's fine. That's not a problem. Like if she's vomiting on people or like
exactly,
like, I don't know, falling over all over the place and making a scene, that's a different thing entirely. But if she just wants to dance and she's doesn't matter if you're good or not. The fact that she's trying is great. That's not a bad
have
thing.
Fun. Well, and this was so good because, oh my gosh, the bridal party and the friends, they had so much fun. This is what was great about it. I often see where half the guys won't dance and this and that. This one, I mean, they're still the ones who are wallflowers for the most part, but most people at least got out there for some things. And they played such a variety of music, a little bit of everything from, they're a Midwestern couple, and so a bunch of country, which is not my thing, but still wasn't bad. And then they actually went into significant with a lot of hip-hop songs, some Eminem, some other stuff. I was like, what? And then towards the end, the DJs flipped over, and literally they had, and gosh, the coordination was so good. They came out with a bunch of glow sticks and said, we're turning it into a rave. And all of a sudden, they were playing techno music at the end, or just various heavy dance. And just, and glow sticks around. So it was great. In the end, we did some notes, and Joe, my brother, said that we ended up with just over 4,000 photos for him to edit through now.
Jeez, that's a good amount.
We had 5 cameras on the event. I had my old 20D and my 7D. My brother had his old 60D and his 7D Mark II. And then
I didn't realize he had a 60D. Very nice.
Yeah, he has that's his little camera. His newer one is his 7D Mark II.
Yeah,
he's already talking
nice
about whether he should get like a 6D or a 5D or something. It's like, because you need 3 bodies, as I'm sitting here jealous. But and then Haida actually brought her camera as well. So we were all it was fun. We were all shooting Canons, and we had 5 of them there. And so both Earth and I were both running around with like dual rigs where we had them hanging off of us, and Haida had hers, and just we were all over the place. It was great. It really went well.
Very nice.
Yeah, no, the whole event was it was a great event. So that's what kept me out late last night into this morning. At some point, and normally I'm aware when I do this because I did it at New Year's and I knew I was going to, and I was avoiding it because of the shoes I was wearing, but I rolled my ankle during New Year's dancing, and I kept dancing on it, and it actually by the end felt better again. Well,
okay.
So it happens enough that I can usually manage it. Odd thing after this time is by the end of the night I actually felt fine, and I didn't even notice it the next day. And so I hadn't rolled it hard, I just kind of stretched it a bit, where I was like,
okay, that's not too bad.
Somehow, and I don't know when, somehow yesterday I rolled my ankle or something. I don't remember rolling it, but it felt like I did. Because there was a point where I was dancing around, and I was like, my ankle is killing me. And so I don't know if it was maybe from the last time I was dancing and just dancing on it again kind of inflamed it. I don't know, but normally I'm very aware when it happens, so I was just kind of like, I don't know, but damn, my ankle hurts. But I made it through the night mostly good, so that was all right. All they managed, and I don't think Earth and I ever did, I never got a song. I should have talked to DJ. Tried to get a song from my brother to do the Worm to or something like that. It was entertaining as enough of the gals knew my little brother from when he coached them that having him dance, they were kind of surprised to see him cut the rug and cut loose like he did. And both of us together, where there was a couple times they looked over like, what? Like, oh, have you not seen this side of us? And so, yeah, it was really good. It was a good time. Anyhow, so that's been my non-geek for the week and what I've been running around and kind of catching up a little bit. So how about, let's see, for you, Ken, did you have, what else did you have?
I had a couple of minor things. I just wanted to also mention that, speaking of dancing, actually, on New Year's, I danced more on New Year's and probably going into 2018, the first few hours of 2018, more than I did probably in all of 2016 and 2017.
Really?
Yeah, I danced a lot. I danced all night. We danced for hours and hours.
Did you?
And I've not done that in my life.
Did you dance to any non-traditional Scottish jig songs?
Oh, there was nothing Scottish. Not a single thing. All that they said they were going to put on Auld Lang Syne, and they didn't even put it on. So
wow.
it was just dance music and stuff.
Okay.
And I don't know,
I
popular music and country music.
Okay, I only asked because I remember coming through like your wedding stuff, things like that. Like all the people who don't dance would at least dance to all the traditional like Scottish things, right? Everybody dances.
Everybody knows that stuff here. Yeah, that's drilled into us. So
yeah, but beyond that, you don't dance, and so that's why I was curious. Because even you were that way a little bit at the wedding, where it was like you're dancing all the circle dances and things like that. But then with regular music, you did a bit, but it was like, huh? So no, this is good to hear. I'm excited.
Yeah, it was really fun actually. It wasn't as if I was doing it entirely because I was just loving dancing. A large part of it was just that I didn't want everybody else to feel like, bad. And I was, my sister-in-laws were there, and I wanted them to enjoy themselves, and they can feel a bit socially awkward and stuff. So I made a point of like getting up there and doing it myself as well, just so that, it's being an adult, it's being mature. It's just I may not enjoy it, but I know that other people's enjoyment is based on that. So you make an effort,
Whatever excuse you need to get out there and make sure you're dancing and having a good time, it's okay. It's okay. You could tell yourself as a good Scotsman that you don't like to dance, but enjoy it.
I'm allowed to not like dancing, I'm allowed to. But other than that, let's see. Teaching begins soon, and so actually things are really picking up with work just now. I'm traveling again in 2 weeks' time. Down south. It won't affect the show. It's during the week. And teaching starts in 2 weeks. I'm also doing some invigilation this coming week for some exams. I've got some deadlines due for my work with the company that I work with, along with my PhD in the next 2 weeks, and my paper is due at the end of the month, and things are not looking great with that again, which is really, really not good. Super, super busy. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I want to talk about in my non-geek. So I'm ready to continue when you are.
Okay, well, with that then, let's go ahead and switch this over and say... Oh, as I break things.
Denied!
Right, it's something I had to think harder, where it's like, what? You want to play different music in the background? Why would you want to do that? And so it is thinking really hard, so in a moment here, hopefully it will switch over and play our drop-in and everything. I don't know why that happened, but anyhow, since we're still broadcasting, that's fine. As we get into things that are geek this week, I'll let you start with
Sam.
This one, Ken. What have you been doing that's been geek?
Are you
hey,
geek?
look.
Geek cred, level up!
There it is, just in time. All right, Ken, what have you been doing that's been geek?
Oh geez, what have I been doing? Okay, so first off, I was really enjoying D&D, and it was a lot of fun. And I look forward to every week and stuff, and the group were great and everything. I can't say anything bad about it. The only thing I can say is that it took up a lot of my time. I'd end up spending like 6-7 hours there, easy every single week.
Oh,
and considering I'm at a stage in my PhD where I'm barely ever home and stuff, me and Kitten sat down and sort of decided that it'd be best if it's not very fair of me to go and do this when I don't spend that much time with her in a week. So I was like, you know what, we need to invest more in our marriage, and you know, sometimes marriage is about a sacrifice of things that you enjoy doing. And I do enjoy D&D, but we brought up some good points that I do definitely enjoy being with her more than I enjoy D&D, right? So
it's good to have your priorities set. Yep, it's good to have your priorities.
So that's D&D canned for me for now, anyway. We'll see what it's like in the future. Maybe once work lightens up, I'll be able to go back to it or whatever. But in the meantime, while work is, you know, 60-70 hours a week, which it has been for months, I don't really have a right to take a whole night, go and do something else when I can't even spend a night at home. So
no, I understand. D&D is a huge time sink. That's something where my group hasn't played for a month and a half, so because my cousin got busy with work for the holidays, and we haven't figured out a time yet to kind of reinstate it. Because for us, even though, you know, we were excited to play, we understand the time sink, so we were trying to keep it down to about once every 2 weeks was our schedule that we had it set up for. And even then, when you do play, it's still 6-7 hours. It seems like no problem, easy to do, and that's kind of hard when then we have to work the next day. And so, you know, we were trying to mitigate and do it where we could do everything, but still understanding that D&D takes effort. It takes some real-time commitment to do everything. And so I understand when it becomes a bit of a challenge, and it's as much fun as it is, I have not been able to dedicate. I've got so many things I have to accomplish that allowing myself 6 hours in a day just to do one thing like that is difficult. Really difficult.
Absolutely. And it's great fun, and I'll definitely get back to it one day. And it's something that I've still got my character sheet so that I can like build on it or whatever one day whenever I want to try something else. But it was great fun. The thing I'm most sad about is the fact that I hope I haven't upset anybody in the group by leaving abruptly like that. Because they're a bunch of good guys, and I don't have anything against them, and it just I did stop very suddenly. So hopefully it doesn't disrupt the mechanics of their game too much.
Usually you can roll with it. You just have to kind of restructure a few things, but normally you can. And so it's not a huge thing.
We've got a good DM, so I don't think it will be a problem. But it still concerns me regardless. You know, I just worry about these kind of things. So in terms of like gifts that I got for Christmas, I kind of want to talk about some of the PlayStation stuff that I got.
Yeah,
because that's fairly nerdy. So I received Shadows of War, as in Lord of the Rings game.
Okay.
Now I played the original Mordor game like years ago, like two years ago maybe, and it was a great game. Really enjoyed it and stuff. And this next one, I thought it was like a DLC or something. I didn't actually realize it was like a full-on game. I didn't really look into it that much. But yeah, it's a standalone, big, full friggin' game. And it feels kind of like an old-style expansion for a game where you pay like a full price, but you get a whole friggin' game. It's in like it's like clearly the same game in terms of like all the mechanics, etc. but it's massively expanded upon, kind of like what Frozen Throne was to Warcraft 3. Like there's a huge new campaign, there's loads of features, there's new units, there's new enemies, there's new mechanics, graphics are improved, etc., etc. All that stuff. That's really what it was. And the only thing that I would not have bought the game knowing what I know now. Not because I'm not enjoying it, and I am really thoroughly enjoying it, but I wouldn't want to give them money because they don't deserve it. And it's because of the microtransactions system that they implemented into this single-player game. So, it's really fun. You play as the ranger, same as in the previous game, where you're running around and you're sort of you're held together by the spirit of a wraith, who Celebrimbor, who made the original One Ring and the other rings. So quite an important lore character is like part of you and has a spirit entwined with your body, and you two are sort of like you're paddling around, running around Mordor, and you're taking out bad guys, and you're making your own little orc army to go do stuff, and you even make a new ring. That's the whole premise of this particular expansion game thing, is you make your own ring. It's not as powerful as the One Ring or whatever, but it allows you to dominate the minds of many. It is a ring of power, yeah. And it's pretty interesting. Now, the other thing that really kind of annoyed me with the game was that they've clearly messed with the lore quite a lot to get this to kind of work.
Interesting.
So, for example, you know the big ass spider.
Yeah.
Well, the big ass spider is now a pretty lady.
What?
Which is a bit weird, yeah. What was that?
Is it dirty?
Yeah, a little bit. So Shelob. So Shelob, which is the one that Frodo has an encounter with, right? Shelob is like this beautiful lady who is like interested in the ring and everything. And I don't know the Lord of the Rings lore inside out, but like I don't know, maybe it's just because of the movies that are disingenuous to the books, perhaps. But from what I felt from seeing it after only having seen the movies and not read the books, is that it was a bit ridiculous that she was this pretty lady and everything, and then you don't really feel that at all in the movies. Like it just looks like a spider who's acting like a spider. It doesn't seem to have any conscience or logic or intentions behind it. Okay. Now, I believe I was told the other day actually by somebody that in fact that's not quite true, because in the perhaps in the books, I don't know, Shelob is explained as to why she does all that stuff with Frodo isn't because she wants to kill Frodo, but because she wants to hasten his journey, and she tries to steer him in the right direction, I guess. And I was like, feels like a bit of a cop-out to me, but I don't know how legitimate that is.
I was going to say, I never heard that, so interesting.
Yeah, so, but anyway, it was, that was a bit strange seeing Shelob as one of the main characters in this, and she keeps granting visions to you as the main character. But Celebrimbor keeps saying to you, like, hey, don't trust her, bro. Don't trust her. She's a fickle one. Don't trust her. And so you're building your orc army. You're trying to throw Sauron off of his evil dark throne, and it's a really fun gameplay. I'm really enjoying running around building my army. The mechanics, and like, you know how in games when you have an open world, there's often like collectibles. There's quite a lot of stuff around the map. Like I remember back in like GTA San Andreas, you'd have to spray paint like 500 different spray paints around the whole entire globe, right? And that was very tedious. Well, this game kind of has that, but there's like 6 or 7 different types of collectibles. So it's nice. I'm collecting most of the stuff without really trying. Like I'll be running through doing a quest, and I'll see something on the wall that I need to like click on, and I'll do that. And I'll look at the map at some point and be like, oh cool, I've collected like 6 out of 7 collectibles in this area, meaning that without trying, I've already done like the vast majority of it. So when I do decide to go and finish off, it might take me like 5 minutes per collectible type per area, rather than hours trying to find everything. Now back to the other thing that was kind of annoying me with the game though is the microtransaction system. Now it doesn't feel necessary to me yet. Now, to be fair, I'm at a very low level in the game, both literally my character as well as my armies. So you can, as you build like the orc armies, you build them by recruiting captains, and you recruit captains by bumping into them or doing missions or sending death threats to people inside the game, and that increases the loot that they have, their level and whatever, and so that when you recruit them, they're a bit more powerful, or when you kill them, they drop better equipment.
Okay.
And when you recruit these different captains, you can promote them, you can make them war chiefs, you can make them overlords if you're very good. And you build your own army, and you upgrade your army by giving them different troop types or siege upgrades or whatever, and all this stuff, all in order to take over different orc strongholds and slowly but surely win over Sauron's territories, and in Mordor. And as you're doing this, that's cool and all. And so far, I'm at a stage where like I've done a couple strongholds that were like 50 levels above where I am. Like it was a level like 79 stronghold, and I'm like level 24 or something. And it was quite hard. Like it took me a while to kill the last boss at the end, like in the region of like 15 to 20 minutes instead of the normal like 2 to 3. But I can see how it'd be made a lot easier if I had a bunch of captains that were high level. Now that's where the microtransactions come in. You could, instead of you having to hunt down these captains and sort of train them and make them go do stuff, you can instead just sort of go in, spend some money in the game, in-game currency, and buy like a loot box full of these captains. Yeah. And that doesn't particularly appeal to me personally. I don't really care for loot boxes whatsoever. And like honestly, I'd rather spend the time in the game collecting the captains. I actually quite enjoy the system they've got in place with the armies, etc. I do genuinely enjoy it. Maybe it gets to the stage, and like I said, I am early in the game. Maybe it gets to the stage where, you know, you're level like 50, you're level 60, and you've been in the game for like 50 hours, 60 hours, 70 hours, and you're looking at a stronghold that's level 256, and you don't have a chance with, and you're like, oh well, if I just spent £5 in the game, I might have. I can kind of see the appeal a little bit there, and I wonder if that's what they're trying to do.
Anything that like, I don't know, lessens your gameplay. If it's single player is one thing where I have to give credit and say, you know, if people want to do this with their time, they can.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But you know, that's the thing with all these microtransactions, is they'll intentionally put virtual walls up, you know, like building time or whatever. They don't really do that with this game in that kind of like construction type stuff, or at least not what I've seen yet. But this does feel like a bit of an artificial wall where they just make the enemies so difficult that you need to have higher level captains and war chiefs in your army, and to do that you need to level up yourself a lot to be able to, because you can only recruit captains up to your level. So I'm level 23, so I can only recruit a captain up to level 23. Okay. So if I want to recruit like a really high up level dude, I need to get to a really high up level myself, and that's going to take a long time. So I can see where, you know, it feels like there may be an artificial wall in place that they've intentionally put there to try and make it more difficult for you, so that you want to friggin' spend money in this game unnecessarily. Now, I wouldn't mind that these kind of artificial walls are in place, or saving time or whatever, when the game is free. What really bugs me is this is a full-priced game. It was like £50-60, right?
Yep.
Like that's a full price game, and in my opinion, I've given you the money. I shouldn't have to give you any more unless you give me another full, like, real content.
Actual DLC.
I shouldn't have to pay you money for you to take down the virtual walls within the game. I should only pay you money for actual content, actual deliverable content. Loot boxes just disgust me. So the other thing you can buy, you can also buy with in-game currency, to be fair. There is an in-game currency that you can earn, which is like the silver coins or whatever, where you can buy like certain loot boxes. Now, the thing is, these loot boxes are silver versus gold, so you get less stuff. And generally, from what I've been getting from them has been pretty subpar loot. Like, I've been getting better loot in the game within like 10 minutes after getting the new loot. Oh, no. So what's the point, is it really? Now, they also use this in-game currency in different ways, so you can also use it to like upgrade your armies and stuff, and I like that. I like the fact that you can earn like a currency in the game and upgrade as you go, and it makes it so that you can concentrate more on the quest line if you want and ignore your armies, or you can do the opposite and like be kind of overpowered, and you can concentrate on like leveling them up with the resources, etc. if you want to. So you can kind of stylize your own gameplay towards what you prefer doing. Because the thing is, the mini game of captains and armies and stuff is pretty much infinite. You can constantly go and kill enemy captains, and then they eventually get replaced over time, and then you can kill more, and then you get more currency, and then you can upgrade your armies more, etc., and keep going. And I like that system, and plus it's got this sort of nemesis system, is what they call it, where if you get killed by one of the captains, which will happen, like the game, I play the game on normal difficulty, not on hard or anything. And I've been killed a few times, usually because I get overwhelmed. Like I'll be in an area and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna kill this one guy, and then as I start attacking him, like he has a buddy, the captain. Like that's one of another perk of the system, or not perk. Another point of the system is that sometimes the captains have like relationships with other captains. So if you kill one of them, and his brother is like your ally or whatever, he'll stop being your ally and betray you, or I don't know. Sometimes you kill somebody and their brother decides to ambush you, but only when you attack a certain other captain that's his friend or whatever.
Okay.
So you attack a captain, and then his friend just jumps out of nowhere and also attacks you, and you're like, crap! I planned to take down this one dude, not two people at once, two bosses pretty much. And actually, I was playing a couple of days ago, and I had this one scenario where I wanted to kill what's known as a war chief in the game, which is like a higher ranking than a captain. And each war chief has two captains looking after them, like bodyguards. So you're basically taking on one boss and two mini bosses that are alone their own boss, really. And that's pretty tough. And then I had three dudes come in out of nowhere, three other captains who decided to attack me as well. So I had like six.
Oh no! 6
different bosses at once, all of whom had their own different like. So each captain has like each character in the game. They're randomly generated, but they have their own like advantages and disadvantages and class types, etc. So you can get some that are tankier. You can get some that are different races that are like bigger and can't be jumped over or whatever, because you're a very mobile character in this game. You have others who are like afraid of flames, so that if an explosion goes off, they'll run away and try to escape you and like disappear and like deload if they get far away enough. Like they'll despawn. You'll have others who get enraged by certain things, so that if you, I don't know, unleash some spiders from a wall or something that you use as like a thing to distract them, certain ones will be enraged and just not care about your attacks anymore and just constantly attack you. And there's all these different things. But because there was like 6 or 7 of these bosses, pretty much every single tactic that could be was on play. So if I like blew up a barrel that was like all fiery, suddenly 2 of them will run away scared, one of them will start attacking me as hard as they can, and another one instantly dies because they're like they're just super vulnerable to flame or something. And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. I'm just getting annihilated by all these different guys. But then there's also the point that you can elect your own little army captains as your bodyguards, and you can call upon them in the battle as well to show up and help you. And you can also call upon some like beasts that you can control, like basically giant dogs. And the game is quite complex, lots of fun, but the microtransaction system is really what really pains me with it. It just feels unnecessary.
It goes back into the things we want to like not reward developers for.
Yeah.
Like, could you please not?
I saw a stat like last month that said something along the lines of like, it's been worked out that generally speaking, games that have microtransactions make approximately 300% or 400% of their own revenue compared to their own sales of their game through microtransactions.
No, we had a discussion over Christmas about it with or prior with Akko and I talking about that specifically, microtransactions and what all it does, and why we will not get rid of them, because they tend to make more money.
They work. Yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I suppose a selfish standpoint, I hate microtransactions because I don't want to waste money in a game. I'd rather play the game and enjoy it and have it as is.
Yep.
But there's so many people out there who really want to spend money in it, and there's some people who spend thousands of dollars in the game. You know, whales. That's where they get their money from. Most of the money
that's what we talked about. One whale is worth, I forget how many regular players.
Oh, like 1,000 or something, isn't it? Like thousands.
So bad, but yes.
That's the thing. That's why they model it in a very specific mathematical way, so that in order to get like through the game and really have any real progress, you have to be a whale. Otherwise, you're just sort of playing and be contented with the fact that you'll never reach the end. Just kind of sad.
Yeah, no, I'm against those things. Hopefully I'd love to hopefully see something in 2018 where Microtransactions get it like a, it redoes in such a way that people see it and say, oh, maybe those aren't a good idea. But I have very little belief that'll happen.
Even if it was something along the lines of you can only do one microtransaction per day per game, I would be okay with that.
No. Let's get away from microtransactions. Let's get back to just
full ideally, games. But okay, let's look at it from an economic standpoint. No. You don't know anything about games, right? You don't care about games. You're just some company, and you're just like, oh, let's make some money, and you acquire this other company that makes games. You're like, all right, whatever, and they say, all right, we have this old model which will make us, possibly, I don't know. We spend, like, say 100% is our spending money. We'll make 115% profit. Or we can go with microtransactions and make 400% profit. From a sheerly economical standpoint, it's dumb for them not to use microtransactions.
I don't care if it's financially responsible, happy, or otherwise. It's bad for consumers.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I will never talk about that any corporation I expect to be good for consumers, because that's not their point. But
some are.
What
when you
company?
Say organization.
No. Well, okay. No corporation, no company is out there for the betterment of humanity. Every one of them is there for profit. Some will do things that are a little more beneficial for humanity while making profit, but they're not there just for the better good. It goes back to the old adage of anyone who ever allows a large corporation to make decisions for them about what humanity should be doing is an idiot, because they're going to do what's best for their shareholders and what makes profit.
Yeah.
But
now, that being said, I've always struggled with the concept of the freedom of people and the freedom of companies versus legislation of the government. And I've always been kind of pro, at least in the past, I've been kind of pro smaller government so that people can have more freedom, right? Like I always appealed to me the sense of personal individuality, like you being able to, like I believe that any man or woman should be able to get up in the morning and make their own money, and they should get taxed as little as possible, and and over time build up a lot of money, and if they get to the stage where they have some downsides in life, then great, they should have insurance by that point, or they should have savings or whatever. Otherwise their family should be able to help them, and ideally that's how the system would work. Now that's what I used to always believe in, and I suppose on a sheerly theoretical standpoint, that is what I believe in. That is my basis. But in reality, I've seen more and more stats and figures from different companies, and I've always been from different countries, and I've always been of the opinion that I'm never going to try to bend facts to my opinion. I'm always going to try to bend my opinion to the facts. And from what I've seen, countries that implement a partly socialist or partly, where the government regulates some of the economy, not entirely, because that fails always, but when they partly regulate it, it tends to be much more successful. Like, look at the Nordic countries. Whereas if you go too far down the road where there's just like the government owns all the electric companies and owns all the transport system and owns all the health and everything, that fails too, right? Look at any socialist country that ever, right? Every single one is pure socialist country has always failed. But if you look at the ones that are like take the best of both worlds kind of thing, they do well. They do really well for themselves. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take this so political, but that really is really how I feel about microtransactions. Is I struggle from that sort of moralistic standpoint. I feel like the companies should be able to do as they please. I really do. I really want that to be the case. Because in the end, that's one of the beauties of capitalism, is the fact that companies will go towards what people spend their money on, and it's effectively a vote, right? Where it's what the populace are voting on. It's a democratic system almost. But the problem is not everybody has equal amounts of money. Right?
And companies cheat. Companies cheat. They do nefarious things to make it so there is no competition. They do things to mislead consumers so the consumers don't really know what it is they're purchasing, how they're voting. They do all kinds of nefarious things because it's ways to get their bottom line better. It's when companies start out, and they may start out benevolent in that they are making a good product to be a good company, but eventually as they start to do money and they have to make profit because they have shareholders and they go public, then all of a sudden they have to find ways to cut costs and to improve profit while not necessarily providing a better product. And they don't tell consumers that. They do what they can to make consumers believe that they're still getting the best thing they possibly can for their money, because that's the way they can still sell. And yet they're charging more and things like that. So the problem is capitalism is neat for having companies make money, but regulation is good to ensure everybody plays by a certain set of rules. Because it's the thing that we're so fearful here in the United States right now, is that if we just go forward and just keep getting rid of all regulation, that you're going to get back to a time when companies didn't have to answer for anything and they did things like dump waste directly into public water supplies. Because they could, and nobody was stopping them. Because the regulation goes away, right? Things like that where it's like, no, it's the same reason I don't want the, companies will do everything they can to exploit what they can now versus looking out as to what it's going to affect 100 years from now. And so there's a lot of reasons regulations are good. Anyhow, but like I said, that's getting into politics. For me with microtransaction, my problem is I don't think enough people are paying enough attention to say there are better ways, and we don't want to fall into this. I mean, it's happened some. Look what happened with Battlefront 2. Right, with the new Star Wars Battlefront.
Somewhat. They're still in profit, though.
They're in profit. They didn't make
as much profit as they liked, but they're still in profit,
People did see and people did react, and in doing so, they actually had to address it. It's still not fixed, and they're basically just biding their time, but it did make an effect. And it was at least an example of people waking up enough to go, oh, I don't like this. Because they could have been significantly more successful.
True. I actually saw that game on sale for £16 and I still chose not to buy it. I was like, I'm not going to give them any money. I'm not giving them a penny. If it's £1, I will not buy it.
And that's what I'm saying. So there's still, I mean, in a way, what I'd like for more people to do in 2018 is to not do those things, is to pay with their wallet and is to really pay attention before they buy stuff to realize, is this something I want to support? Not just because it's popular, but actually do say, that's probably not the right answer. And thus not buy things. But we'll see. We'll see what people do.
And so if you want to follow the sort of moralistic standpoint in the future of gaming and trying to fight for what you enjoy, don't buy Shadow of War. Just don't do it. Because you shouldn't support the company. Or at the very least, don't buy microtransactions in the game. Do not do that.
If you do buy it, don't ever buy.
Yeah, like you can buy like the silver edition stuff of the game, which comes with some microtransaction stuff. Like just don't do that. Now, what else did I get? I also got Diablo 3. That was a kind gift from my parents, and
nice.
Yeah. So having already played it, I was sort of like, cool, I'll get back to that at some point. I really want to enjoy Shadow of War first because I've never played that one before. But Kitten said to me like, oh, do you have any co-op games now? And I said, actually, let me check. And I looked and I saw that Diablo 3 is in fact co-op on PlayStation.
Nice.
And so we have 2 pads, and so we can actually finally have our first game that we can really actually play multiplayer. So we didn't get too far. We played for maybe like an hour and a half. Kitten didn't seem to feel it too much. She wasn't too into it. She like, and I get it, right? Like Diablo's kind of a hard thing to get into. And it's a little bit clunky and it's a bit samey, right? Like you're basically just running around holding down the same button wherever you go, and you pretty much can't die. And I said to her like, we should do it on hard difficulty. In fact, we should do it on expert because it gets boring otherwise. And she was like, I don't think so. Normal will be fine. And I was like, yeah, no, seriously, we're not going to enjoy it if it's. She's like, So we ended up going in the middle and going with hard. And I said to her like after like half an hour of gaming, I said to her, so, would you think this is difficult? And she said, no. And I was like, okay, this is why I wanted to go on expert. Not because it's difficult, but because it's just a face roll. Like, we don't need to try. We just run around holding a button and it works. So, I'm playing as... I started off as a Crusader.
Okay.
And I was enjoying... Because I always enjoy the idea of that kind of paladin-type class thing. But... Oh. Are we?
Oh, that's right. We're supposed to be on break. Whoops.
Oops, my bad. Sorry, I'm talking too long about this stuff.
Well, here, let me pause this. Let us finish this up, and then we can. We'll continue from there.
Yeah, the microtransactions discussion went on a bit longer than I think we expected.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing that we can talk about.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, not a bad thing at all.
That's all right. Oh, wow. This is really being slow today.
It is.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know what's going on, but I probably because I don't think I've rebooted my computer for a while. That could
so
be okay.
I actually put a script on my university computer now using Windows. Has its own tasker type thing where you can set up scripts to run at certain times. It's the first time I've actually used it. I made a little script just to say shut down if every week on Monday at 3 a.m. or so, shut down if there's been more than an hour of inactivity. Just so that once a year the computer restarts. Once a week the computer restarts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a minor thing. I just need to remember, like, Sunday night not to leave anything open. It's important.
That's probably a good thing,
I
yes. No.
Yeah.
But interesting. Okay, so I got that. Let's take a break real quick because we are past.
Yes.
And so I'm going to kick off this music. We're playing a little bit of OC Remix here, Halo 3 Immortalized. A remix from
Nice.
OC Remix. We'll be back right after this song, and then we will continue from there. So you're listening to Show X at VTWProductions.com, and we'll be back right after this. All right. Well, it should. Yeah, everything on Sam is just like every song is.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com.
That's so weird. I don't know what it's doing.
I start when I want to, not when you tell me to.
Yeah, I'm probably like I said, gonna have to like redo the just the computer as a whole. I can see reasons it would be not working, but that's still weird.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
Oh well. Alright, so, as we're going, continuing after this, let's see, where did I cut you off before the end of the break?
So I was talking about Diablo 3 a little bit, just saying that we've been playing that. The last thing I wanted to say was, so I received the autobiography of Jean-Luc Picard as my Christmas gift from Aslan, actually, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't expect it to actually be written from his standpoint. I know it's his autobiography, and I know what that means, but I still expected it to be sort of like a non-fiction look at Star Trek sort of thing. I don't know why. Maybe I shouldn't have. But no, it was actually written from the standpoint of Jean-Luc Picard, talking about his life as the captain of the Enterprise and his previous missions before that, and as a recruit when he first joined Starfleet, and his career progression throughout, and his character progression, etc. as well. And it was actually very interesting, very touching. There's a few, and I read the whole thing in his voice. The whole thing. It was quite the experience, actually, and it's partly why I couldn't put it down, because I can't do his accent. I can't speak like Picard, but in my mind I hear him perfectly. I hear him with clarity. And so when I was reading this, the way the sentences were formed, it was definitely written in his, structure, how he would speak. And it shone through very easily. So I had as far as I'm concerned, I did not read a book. Jean-Luc Picard narrated that book to me, because that's really what I experienced. And it was really enjoyable. I love the stories. I love the fact that they expanded upon certain parts of his love life and his time at the academy, and I don't know, it's been a bit more human, and but also expanded upon some of his triumphs throughout his life, etc. And his family life. That was really interesting as well. I wasn't expecting to find that so interesting. But honestly, I consumed the whole thing in about 4 days. And that was during all the other festivities and while other stuff was going on. So pretty much whenever I had a free moment, I ended up sitting reading. Which is really nice, because it's the first book I've read in a long time that isn't work-related.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I was thinking about it, the last book that I read otherwise in the past year. The only other book I read was Effective Java by Joshua Bloch, which was, a textbook. So it was nice to read something else. That was really enjoyable. I do recommend the autobiography of Picard. If you're a Star Trek The Next Generation fan, you will thoroughly enjoy it. And I recommend watching the series before reading the book. In fact, one of the really nice parts was that at the very beginning of the book, it's like a introduction by Beverly Picard.
Nice. So
the chief medical officer of the Enterprise, who later, as you know, at the end of the series, goes on to marry Jean-Luc, and it's from her perspective. But halfway through what she's writing, Q, I don't know if you remember Q, the godlike creature. Yeah, very, very famous in the TNG universe. He's a godlike creature who always interferes with the running of the show and sort of just appears and sends the ship off to another part of space, or alters the timeline or reality in a massive way. Like, I wonder what would happen if Jean-Luc was a lowly technician on the ship instead of the actual captain. And then that's just the whole episode of a what-if scenario, because he's just this godlike creature who can do that kind of thing. The flick of a finger and he can just change reality. And at the very beginning of this autobiography, he interrupts what she's saying and has his own input instead. And he says, he starts off by saying something along the lines of, "I haven't even read this book. It's such a lonely. Why would anyone write about their own life? It's not even worthwhile. Humans are so pathetic. Only a creature such as I should bother even writing a book. I haven't even read this thing. In fact, I'm going to. There, I now have. I've read the whole thing in its entirety. What tosh? It wasn't worth reading whatsoever. I don't recommend it. And it was just very funny because again, you read that in his voice in my mind. So it was just nice the way that every character was true to themselves, and it really explains how each character got to the Enterprise as well. So you hear the background of where Picard met them all and why he got each individual crewman and crewwoman to come onto the ship in the end, and why they were all chosen. It was really, really enjoyable. I do recommend it. It's a good read, and I really couldn't put it down. So it's the autobiography of Jean-Luc Picard. And with that, that's all of my geek cred, and I'll relinquish and let you speak now, sir.
That is good. That is good geek cred for the week. I appreciate it. All right, for me, what have I been up to? Let's see. Main things I wanted to cover is that 3D printing has been a major thing for me in my geek recently, as continues to be. Specifically, I'm actually in a good place in life right now where all of my 3D printers are currently working. It has been over a year or more since that's happened, and since then I've added 3D printers and such. So anyone who's followed and remembered for a while now is I had originated with the Robo R1 from their original Kickstarter when they were releasing the first for Robo 3D. I got one of their original Kickstarter models. Ran that a lot and printed a lot of the stuff that's on my shelves over the year, but I always had issues with it because the Kickstarter one had little things that were just nitpicky, and they actually were learning as they went. And once they were in the wild, a lot of people gave them a lot of feedback to the point where they eventually released their R1 Plus, which basically took all of these little nitpicky things and fixed them and made a much better printer. And then more recently, I got on their Kickstarter for their R2, which is their whole next generation of 3D printer line. With the R1 Kickstarter I had a lot of success with it, but then eventually I upgraded some things. They started failing. Some things worked better than others, and some things broke, and eventually it was down. I couldn't be bothered with trying to figure out what the real problem was, because in fact I was getting an issue where the heating element was just failing each time. And I got frustrated enough, I just kind of set it aside. To the point where I eventually bought the R2 without my R1 Kickstarter even working. Got the R2, another Kickstarter, had issues with that, had upgrades to things that have been working and not working, things I've had to do, and for the most part I've gotten it to a point again through some trial and tribulation where it's working again. And then I also had gone out and purchased a newer R1 Plus, so not the original R1 Kickstarter, but one that later someone was selling that they'd basically never opened, and were selling for basically the same price as the website was selling for their cheapest sales they've had recently. And so I picked up a third printer. In doing so, I had them all running, and then I had the newer two running, and then eventually started breaking them again, and then had to go back and do some troubleshooting. So my geek cred has mostly been that I have been learning a lot more about 3D printing yet again. Big thing that was nice is I took a little video of it when I first started getting my R1 Kickstarter running again. I have modded the crap out of this thing. It is still an original R1, but at the same time I've done a bunch of little just convenience of life things, but also some really recommended things in community. So one of the things I just recently finished doing was I got an entirely new print carriage for it, the thing that actually holds the print head and the gears and stuff to do the extrusion, where I printed a new one that was a universal mount that allowed me to put on this new upgraded version for specifically my hot end, the E3D V6 that I have, which is this nicer hot end.
I love that tool can help mend itself. That's so cool.
It's actually could, and I had to buy some
upgrade itself even
linear gear or linear bearings and such and other pieces to kind of finish redoing it, but I got it all put back together finally. On top of that, I printed a gear, or it's a multiple segmented chain link that holds the wiring for it, where originally the wire goes to this little like wire clip bundle that they do in original. This is a much cleaner solution because it's actually hard chain link that holds it in specific order, and you print all of it. And I printed it and added it all in there with a little housing, and it works really well. I also added an external controller, basically a $15 screen that has a little microcontroller in it. It's a little tiny thing that has a SD card reader. It's got a LCD screen, there's a couple buttons and controls on it so that you can control the printer itself directly without having to have it plugged into a separate computer. So it allows them to run autonomously or run without a laptop or anything controlled. So if you don't have to keep a computer on it, which is nice. And if the computer fails, sometimes I would lose prints back in the day. Now it's just running on this microcontroller. It works great. It has all the controls right into it. So now that I've got that attached and running into as well, I'm printing currently housings for it so I can mount it all pretty against the printer and have it all covered versus just ribbon cables and stuff hanging out. So I'm currently doing that upgrade. What other things did I do to it? Like I said, lots of little just pieces and parts here that I've been doing to upgrade this new one. Part of it is, a big part is I rewired the hotbed and the wiring coming off of the heating element and the thermistor myself. Because I've recently learned how to finally solder, at least to a minimal level. I can solder wires together. I don't know. I'm not yet confident enough to solder a controller board actually on pins, but soldering wires together and getting a good solid connection to me has been a great upgrade. Because prior to that, I was just wrapping wires together and electrical taping them, which will work. But it's not a clean connection, and you're not getting good energy flow, and there's a high likelihood they'll separate.
That's a really good skill to have for just general, around the house stuff. That's really good. Well done for you for learning that.
Well, and with that, I'm going to be tinkering more and more, but it's also upped my confidence in doing everything I've been doing on my printers now, which is why they're all running again. Yay, I now know how to solder wire, as well as heat shrinking and doing some other things that I had done before, but now it's just, my skill has gotten far enough along that it's actually being used constantly. And so I got the R1 Kickstarter running, and it's actually feeling really good. I got a few other little mods I may do to it to try to make it just as good as it can be. The R1 Plus, I had printed a thing when I was trying to make a Praetorian Guard helmet that I had modeled, and it got so globbed that it ended up wrapping itself around the hot end, and when I went to pull it out, it actually ripped out the thermistor wire, which is a pain in the ass because that has a nice clean connection on it. So then I went and I thankfully from back in my R1 Kickstarter days had picked up a lot of pieces and parts, like, I don't know, a bag of thermistors. And so I went through and I actually re-put together and rebuilt the thermistor for it. I went through 3 versions before I finally got one that's nice and solid on it. But now got it upgraded with the new thermistor and running again, taped all up, and so it's been printing as well as upgrades again for the other printer. Some new feet and stuff on it, as well as some toys that I'll show here in a second. And then with the R2, I've had an issue where the hot end suddenly stopped working, wasn't heating up at all. So I went to Robo and said, hey, what the heck? They went and sent me a new thermistor. I plugged it in, not the problem. It's the actual ceramic heating element that's failed. And so I reached out to them again, and hopefully they'll send me a new one. I'm still under warranty. At this point, I've been replacing a lot of the R2, which is unfortunate, but it's getting there. And then coming back off it, thankfully, again, through my collection of other parts and pieces that I've been playing with before, I had another ceramic heating element that I had trying to do some of my upgrades before. Unfortunately, the ones I'd grabbed originally are not the right size. They're too long. And so I've had that problem
many a time.
It's terrible because you might hurt things, and you gotta be careful how you point it.
Don't want to damage things with that. Nope.
And that's my challenge actually, is because the whole element gets very hot, and because it's so long, it sticks out of the heating block to a point where it actually can run into my fan shroud and stuff. And so I've had to put it in there. It's my temporary fix until I get one of these ones that's the right size coming in, hopefully from Robo, so it's an easy change out. Because otherwise, they all have custom connections. I have to cut the wires, re-sleeve, resolder new wires in because the heating elements are just raw wires, essentially. And so I have to have the confidence and comfort to actually do that whole soldering to make a new solid end or new good wiring to it. Now I do. It's just a little time consuming. It's actually not too bad. But I have that in, and it's currently working. The problem with the current ceramic heating element that I have in there that's too big is that when it heat cycles, it's pretty dramatic to a point where it'll cycle way past what it should, where normally you're supposed to be able to keep the temperature right at essentially within a degree or 2 C of what it's supposed to be printing at. In this case, though, I'm having it bounce like 10 degrees C whenever it heat cycles. And so it's not good for consistency in the prints, although it's been working surprisingly well, even though it's heat cycling. It's still been, the prints I've gotten off of that have been better than I expected. So maybe I'll leave it in there, I know. But the other problem is it's too long, so I can't keep a little plate and stuff on the front of the printer like it's supposed to be. I have to angle it, and I had to take this plate off so it'll fit. But it's working. And essentially right now I have all 3 printers working. An advantage of that is that with it I've been able to print some new cool stuff. I've got 2 commissions I have. Well, one person has commissioned 2 things from me, both from the new Star Wars film. One is a little Porg, essentially. Just a little model of a Porg. One of the little...
What is a Porg, sorry?
It's one of the little, like, bird-ish looking things from the new Star Wars film.
Okay.
That they did on the island where Luke's hanging out. And then the other one I did, which is from both the last movie and this one, from both The Last Jedi and from The Force Awakens, is the character Maz, who was kind of the little techie gal that was running the bar in The Force Awakens. And so I've got a bust of her where a gentleman at work had asked me if I would find the model and print one of those for her. And this one I actually printed off in the highest detail my printer will do by default, which is 50 micron, which is really thin layer height. And I did this in the wood filament, and it's really good. Like, I'm really happy with the results of this one. And so I look forward to give it to him. Doing it at this height, though, where the Porg, I think, for being basically the same size or amount of material, printed out, because I did it at like 0.2 layer height, 200 micron versus the 50 micron that the Maz is in. It printed off in somewhere around like 6 hours for the little guy. Maz took somewhere around 26 hours for essentially the same amount of material, but a different resolution. And so,
sure. Jeez.
Yeah. But I'm really happy with it. Like, the results are awesome. I've also learned a few things lately with setters for extrusion and such that allow it to, or slicing, to allow it to do it at a degraded slice where it starts out very hollow at the bottom, and as it gets to top layers, it lowers the size of the infill until it gets to a sharper or more tightly knit infill, so that by the time you do top layers, it's got enough material on it to actually be able to do clean top layers. And in doing so, it saves a significant amount of material from what you would normally use if you had a consistent infill through the inside, because it's almost hollow at the bottom, and then it starts to get more and more dense as it gets to the top. Disadvantage is it actually could make something top heavy, but as a whole, it's really good. So I've been using that setting lately, and it's saving a ton of material and making prints a lot faster.
Nice.
Another thing that I did where this really came into play was I printed for a friend of mine a Voltron Bayard, which is one of that the Paladins use as their guns, essentially, or their weapons. And this is printed in 3 different colors of filament, so I didn't paint anything, it's just raw filament. But it's done it's the model that's out there for it. It has it where you can do the regular handle and pieces that are black and white, and then the individual colors for each character on the front. In this case, because I did one for Shiro, who is basically Black Paladin, instead of doing black in the front, I did glow-in-the-dark filament. So if it's under light enough, then taken into a dark room, it'll glow nice kind of green color. But I was really happy with this too, because using that new material, or the new slicing that I was doing, it came out much faster, and I was able to use thicker walls. And so it's mostly hollow, and very light compared to so many other prints I've done for props, but really feels sturdy. Like, I'm just super happy. It's like a best of both worlds kind of thing. And so,
nice.
I've done a lot of 3D printing. I've been happy.
I like hearing about your journey through learning about the efficiencies and improving it and stuff. And it's good that you're actually sticking with it, because it sounds like an arduous process to learn all this stuff.
It's something that it's one of the few things where I continue to like just beat on the knowledge of it, because I think I'm going to keep creating. I'm just going to keep building and creating. And cool. I've got a lot of goals with it, and I have talked about before the Galatea Guildhall, which is the Zenko Akko's business, their makerspace they want to open up. And
yep.
So for me, learning this is also helping them, because I'm able to answer some of the questions. And in fact, I'm going to have a life moment here in like a month or a little less, before the end of the month. I just actually got off the phone with Zenko Akko today. They are going to temporarily be moving in with me as they try to transition and find a different house up closer to Denver, where they're currently down south. And so in doing so, they've already moved some stuff into the house, including all their 3D printers. So right now, there are 6 3D printers in my house. Yeah, I got 6 printers. I'm really tempted, because Akko gave me permission to use his printers for some of the things I'm doing, that I may queue up one of these builds, like maybe a Bayard or something like that, onto all of the printers, or at least all the robos, which would be 5 robos that we have, all at once, and to see how quickly I could knock these things out on 3 printers. And so... Well,
that's the way to do it if you want to do it quickly.
Yeah. No, it should be fun. I'm curious to play with it. So
does he has a different printer than you?
No, he's got 2 of the R1s,
Okay.
And then he has a Mod T, which I didn't have, which is a littler printer, but it's surprisingly clean prints for being one of the more simple 3D printers out there. He got it for like $150 used, and you can get them brand new for like under $300. And it's a very simple, straightforward printer, just smaller, and you can only do PLA, but it's surprisingly clean. He's been printing a lot of terrain for miniature games on it, and everything that's come off his printers have been gorgeous. So you can follow Guildhall Galatea on Facebook, and he's been printing stuff and posting a lot of the print like information on there, what it took to print, how much the material cost, stuff like that, basically what they would sell terrain pieces like that for. So he's been working with some game shops locally to actually get some of his prints in there for people to get hold of. So very cool stuff. But yeah, so 3D printing has been probably my most geek thing recently, and learning how to wire and do things with it, as well as bringing in like new controller boards and stuff. I've got a bunch of other little projects I want to do with it. We're hoping to rebuild his laser engraver with some CNC controller parts to upgrade it from this terrible Chinese design that originally was given, that he got pretty cheap. Nice thing is he got like a 30 or 40 watt laser tube with it, which is actually the more expensive part. The machining of the rest, he's got the case, which is good, but the actual electronics behind it's just terrible. So we're gonna go and actually add a bunch of parts in our. I haven't told him fully, but like putting in a bunch of end stops and things like this, and using one of the newer Raspberry Pi boards in it to actually upgrade it to a really high-end,
a custom build sort of thing.
Oh yeah, and then we'll have this full-on laser engraver that'll be very easy to control. And so all these little things, as well as we're going to rebuild his old. He's got a really cheap kind of custom DLP SLA printer, so one of the ones that prints in resin. But it was like this really cheap build-it-yourself kind that he got from someone used that doesn't work. So we're going to rebuild it to make it work. So we got all these little plans. So while they're in the house, I'm going to try to take advantage of that.
Nice. So I know you're not big on Reddit, but have you actually looked at any 3D printing subreddits? Because I bet this would be absolutely perfect for your hobby, dude. Like if you go look at just the recent posts or the hot posts, to see what people are talking about.
Reddit's evil.
I bet it'd be so useful.
Nope.
Reddit's evil? How is Reddit evil?
There are too many bad places on Reddit.
Are you kidding me?
The problem I have with Reddit is I don't like the structure of reading through it. It's such a colluge mess to me of just like trees.
Oh, it's customizable to hell. There's so many different things out there. Like honestly, I used to not be a big fan, but honestly, it got better.
It got better. So I've gone like through some. I go through forums that are specific to the companies and products I use, and general just YouTube and Google searches, and I'm usually able to find most everything. Every time I've gone to Reddit, I found like a Reddit post or something that'll have a tree of stuff that's pertinent. I'll try reading it, and after it like indents 4 times, I'm just like, I can't stand this. I'm going away again. Goodbye. This is terrible. Why do people use this? And so I can't stand the Reddit platform. I'm sure there's great information.
If you can find a customization that suits you, and regardless of the design of the website, the content that could be available through those subreddits is amazing. Like for photography as well, I really enjoy it for photography. There's so much beautiful stuff there. If you subscribe to
I can watch videos on YouTube that are beautiful and easy to consume, and I don't have to read a bunch of terrible writing that people don't know how to type.
Reddit also links to YouTube. Like that's a good way to find new stuff on YouTube.
I can just go to YouTube and find it. I don't have to go through.
Not if it's something that's completely out your spectrum normally. See, that's the thing with Reddit is you can kind of discover more.
Maybe I don't know. So there is going to be an opportunity here where I'm going to have to go through learning mode again, and we'll see where I go for it. I'll still probably start visual on YouTube, but while I was down in Albuquerque, Zenko's father, who's a hell of a tinkerer, super genius guy, has a lab in his house I wish I had. He gifted me one of his old analog oscilloscopes that he had sitting there. And it's this monster thing that can go, I forget what he said, down like 20,000 hertz down to, I forget how low it'll go, oscilloscope. And the challenge is, while a cool piece of kit, I have no idea what to do with it. I don't know how to use an oscilloscope in my daily life. And he has like 5 of them, including some digital ones.
Again, I bet there's a subreddit dedicated
to like I said, as I transition to that, I may have to get into learn mode again. We'll see. Right now, Reddit to me is just painful. And yes, Kuro, you say it good in the chat where at least it's not 4chan. Because
that's exactly the thing, right? Like 4chan is useful for that kind of thing if it wasn't so adult-oriented and illegal-oriented.
Terrible if 4chan weren't terrible?
But Reddit's not. Reddit's so much more moderated.
No, you're right. Like I said, the content is fine. It's how you get to it. It's the platform that I'm just like, no desire
There's an app for it on Android that's quite nice. I don't know what the iOS one's like, but there's also alternate apps. Like, they haven't been shutting down other people who make their own because they want people to access it however they want to. So there's like alternate apps you can use to access Reddit.
So somehow, hopefully you can still hear me because I think my headphones just disconnected from, or partially. No, something.
Well, that doesn't make sense if I can still hear you.
This part? Oh, it's the feed.
Oh, but you can't hear me, right?
Yeah, sorry, my headphones came out. Yeah.
Yes, don't worry, we heard.
Earth could hear us, and in doing so, unplugged it. So yeah. See, oh, of course, Kuro says I have a couple of scopes. One's analog, one's 3,000 megahertz digital. Jeez, yeah. Her father also had a digital one that he was showing off to me. That was like really cool. And he had showed me some custom scopes probes he had made for like light and things like that, and I was just trying to come up with reasons I would use it. So I have it, and I figure I'll put it in the basement along with everything else, is all the printers and stuff. It's kind of a miniature guild hall, just to kind of show what it could be, and I'll figure out a use for it. So Kuro, you might have to teach me as well. I'm learning, slowly learning, increasing my geek cred. Anyhow, so that's everything I've been doing with that. Other than that, all I was going to say is I'm hoping to maybe play some games today, but not multiplayer. I was actually trying to get back into Majora's Mask because I have a goal and a hope to finally play through all the Zeldas, and I've just been busy with everything else for so long I've been missing it. So gonna try to do that. We'll see if I can get it done or not. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that though, and just because it's on my mind and I've kind of been doing it on the side here, I'm thinking that through some tools that are out there, I may open up ShowX going forward from not just YouTwibs, but also put us on Twitch. Because
yeah, absolutely. They now allow that kind of thing. So
yes, now that Twitch has gotten more open with it, and we are ostensibly a gaming and technology show, even though we're mostly a Wayne and Ken show, it is something that I think it works out and we'd be fine to be a part of. And so I've actually got our account set up, VTW ShowX, on Twitch, and I will be using tools. I think I got everything in mind to do it, so hopefully starting next week, you'll be able to catch us either on Twitch or on YouTube, your choice, whatever it might be. And so we'll see if I get that set up correct.
So, speaking of audio stuff as well, and Sam, etc., I did a little poll on Twitter to ask people what they thought, and if you would be upset with us no longer doing our show on audio only live, or sorry, audio live as well as video. And only had one person say that they are upset, and that was Serthus, saying that he listens majorly through the audio live, and it is useful. And I said to him, well, what about if we just left it as a podcast in MP3 format afterwards, but didn't do it live? And he still said, well, I listened to it live. So
admittedly, I am looking through some other options to still maintain that. The biggest challenge has been is that Alpha Geek Radio, as much as we love Todd and those guys, our connection to them failed. And I tried to reach out and have some connection and comments and never really got feedback, so unless Nomize tells me otherwise, I don't have an outlet for audio. I've looked at some options of hosting one myself on one of the servers I have locally. I played with it a little bit before setting up my own Shoutcast, and I don't know all the things I need to do it. I have a Shoutcast server set up, but I don't know how to get it out to the world, essentially. So I may play with that some more and see about what I can do for it. But no guarantees. That's one of those things that I guess it's just until I figure out what like all those little buttons are and how to do it, I can't guarantee we'll have an audio stream. I have been saving our show notes, so eventually I could go and backfill everything. It just takes a lot of work on my part, which is why we're behind. And so I apologize for that, everybody. That's my fault. So,
as far as I'm concerned, I think video is the way forward, and if people want to, they can strip it from the YouTube stream anyway. I mean, like if I was listening to for example, in fact, last week I was listening to this history show, this really great history show I found on YouTube. The kitten showed me, actually. I've been really enjoying it. It was on the Celts in Europe and the genocide of the Celts, in the Roman era. And it's really interesting, but it was like 5 hours long, and I was like, I don't want to stream a 5-hour video on my phone, So while I'm driving, so even though it's just a single image that doesn't move, it's still on YouTube. So just before I left, I stripped the MP3 from it, and I've just listened to the MP3.
Nice.
Nice. It's not hard to do. It takes 2 minutes. You can do it on a website on your phone. Like, you don't even need to download an app. Really easy. So I recommend it if you can. Okay. So other than that, we're going to head into our next section, I believe.
It is.
Are we already?
No. Well, so it's time. We are transitioning now over to our Geekoscope section to talk about news and otherwise. And Ken, if you'd like, go ahead and kick us off with something that is news related. I'm going to try to kick in our background music again as I'm waiting here, and we'll see if it comes back up. But
all right.
In the meantime, go ahead, sir.
So a quick and easy bit of news. It was on the 2nd of January, Rocket League announced that they now have 40 million players worldwide.
Dang!
40 million. That is no small number. That's an insane number of players. And weirdly enough, just before I saw that, I actually saw it on the PlayStation 4 store, and it was reduced down to like £15 or something. I was like, that's a good price for such a good game. But I was like, I can't really get it. I don't need to get it when I'm already really enjoying a bunch of other games right now, so it'd be silly. But I definitely plan to get it in the future, and it's to play online because it's great fun to play, and it's just such a great game. It's cheap. They have microtransactions, but it's for stuff that doesn't matter in the game, and otherwise just a fun, nice game with good music. And they continually produce new content that you don't need to pay for, new maps and stuff, new game types. It's great. They're doing what they should do as a games company, and I like that. They're taking advantage of the microtransactions from an aesthetics point of view, which I'm totally fine with. But they're not doing any other microtransactions, and the game is fun, enjoyable, and multiplayer on their servers. That's sweet. That's really nice. Great company. So that's good news for them.
Nice.
Are you having any luck, sir?
It's really not happy, so we'll just keep chatting through and not worry about the background music some more. It might kick on here, and if it does, fine, but we'll just keep going.
Screw Sam. That's another good thing with the audio list is that we can just move on to something else. Telling you virtual audio cables and using like VLC is much nicer.
And I may go down a different route. I just like the push button drop-ins, things like that. So
yeah,
there's other ways too. It's just unfortunate because it's such a potentially good tool that I don't know why it's got such issues. Oh yeah.
Well. Next up, I have another one here. If that's all right.
Yeah, by all means.
This is from the Unilad Gaming Facebook page, actually. I'm just basically I'm not actually browsing Facebook for the news. I'm just looking at the ShowX page and the stuff that we've shared this week and talking about that a little bit. All right. Bye, guys. See you.
Yeah, apparently.
Bye.
This is how backwards Sam's being now. Wow. That is so weird.
Just hit pause. Just kill it.
Yeah, we'll just go to the end without it. That's all right. We're almost done.
Yes, let's see. That's it's bad enough when Sam doesn't work. When Sam's actually interfering with the show, that's particularly bad.
Normally, it's not this bad. That's a little odd. Oh well. Sorry, Sam. Why you got to be that way? Anyhow, as you were saying,
I don't apologize to it. I should apologize to us.
Yeah.
After all, we pay for the damn thing. Right. So my next piece of news is from the Unilad Gaming Facebook page, and Fable 4 is rumored to be in development.
Oh, yes.
So when Fable 3 was announced, just before it was announced, there was some weird forum post posted up talking. They released some spoilers about potential development, and the exact same thing has just happened with Fable 4. So it's if they're following the same path of like publication and advertisement and having it like being rumored and before they actually release it, the actual news, then it looks like Fable 4 might be a thing. Which is interesting because it means it's not going to be by the original Lionhead Studios. It's going to be a different company that's doing it. It'll be still under I think it's EA that own it, but because EA acquired Lionhead Studios, then dissolved it as they do. With all great games companies, they absorb them and destroy them. So I don't know who it'd be developed by, but who knows? It could be good. It could be interesting. Who knows? I love the Fable series. I'm not necessarily happy with the direction it took, but hey, it didn't get better, but it didn't get too much worse, I guess I could say. It felt a bit random, but it was still enjoyable, and it would be nice to return to the world of Albion again. Because Fable was a big part of my childhood. Like I thoroughly enjoyed the series, and they were some of the first like game companies out there, Lionhead Studios, to really explore an ethics system in a game. Like they were the first guys to really do morals in a game properly, and that became the staple. They shaped gaming culture partly, and the modern face of gaming is largely based thanks to them. And so I'd be happy for that gaming series, which helped kick off, what we consider gaming as the gaming norm now, a bit further. So I would enjoy it. We'll see what happens.
It'll be interesting to see. I know a lot of people were big fans of the Fable series. I tried playing one, I think, once, and I just never got into them. I never liked Fable.
Well, it's a bit late
but I'm
now,
in the minority there.
I find it's quite difficult to play games that are, bit too old that way, because you miss the time when they were impressive and amazing. Like the new moral system and the new ethics system was at one point really impressive, but now it's just like kind of sad compared to what we have now.
That's interesting because I know it tried to do a lot of things and it was innovative in a lot of ways, and so it was something that was always interesting to me. But like I said, it was one that I never got into. But that's all right.
That's okay.
From me, I did want to quickly pop off just to say that starting today, we have another week of awesome games done quick. 2018 has started, and so I know if Copy were here, she'd be happy to be telling us that in our stead, but just so that everyone else can be aware, throw that out for you. But separately from that, I wanted to bring up an article that I had last week, and I was actually more waiting for you to be here to discuss it. But it's one that talks, yet again, about net neutrality. But I don't have much time, but I want to bring this up because it's something that Akko and I had talked about to a degree when we were doing our Christmas show. But it says, in the wake of net neutrality decision, should cities build internet networks? And so it comes up saying, the fallout from the FCC decision to repeal net neutrality, the principle that all internet traffic and data must be treated the same without favoritism, is still taking shape. But some see the policy shift as a potential boost to the movement for more municipal broadband networks. In an era where broadband connection and competition come from just a handful of large companies, it's tempting for many to envision high-speed internet access as a true public utility, controlled by local government and managed in a way that provides maximum access. Says more than 185 communities nationwide in the U.S. offer some form of publicly controlled broadband service, include many that have laid their own fiber networks. If the worst fear of consumer advocates come true, that repealing net neutrality rules leads to big telecom companies such as Comcast favoring content, charging access fees to new startups, and placing barriers to competitors, it may hasten the rise of publicly owned networks. A more public internet would certainly offer some much-needed competition. And according to a 2015 White House study, 3 out of every 4 Americans have access to just a single provider offering high-speed service.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on beyond that to
pathetic.
a lot more and talks about researchers and various things about it. But it also brings up, in general, some of the discussion about good and bad of it. Some of the arguments against have shown that there is potential for a local government to mismanage what could be your infrastructure, and thus costs could actually go higher. It could cost taxpayer dollars that never turn into the fruition of a good network. There's an example of at least one where they laid all the fiber and started to set it up, but they couldn't actually run it well, and so they ended up selling it afterwards. And in this case, where I would say it's actually a good thing, they sold it to Google for like $1. And so that allowed Google to bring in their fiber service there, which I would take, personally. But,
I would. Yeah, I'd put on good money for that.
Yeah, right? So I actually wouldn't be against that if my tax dollars help bring Google here to do fiber. That's just me. But then there's a lot of discussion of the good in that you have a public service, and then by the people you could vote and actually control your costs. And even if it does still cost a little bit, you would at least know that you could have true fiber connection in your city and not have it be to the whims of a company to raise rates or change it, and let alone especially govern how you see things. And so yeah, again, back to my kind of personal philosophy on this about government regulation versus private companies and private individuals' abilities to flourish or do as they please. I struggle with net neutrality in that sense as well, because I do think in the end that some sort of government regulation is best, but if we can
you know, go sort of Elon Musk's kind of route, where we have a global Wi-Fi network that everybody uses, and it's just funded for by all of our governments, and it's high speed, and it already has some sort of control of content to make sure illegal crap doesn't go on it, then great. That would be a good thing for everybody, I think. Because the thing is, unlike many things out there, the internet, in my opinion, is a human right. Believe it or not, I think it should be seen that way.
We definitely talk about it as being a utility that everyone needs to survive in today's world. Yeah,
you can't function in today's world easily anyway without the internet. And if you do decide to go off the net or whatever, that's fine. But you know what? It's still going to be difficult when you want to go do your taxes, when you want to seek help with something. I mean, even if you go to your local library and you ask for help, they'll just tell you to go on the computer and Google it. You know, like they won't tell you, oh well, this is the latest tax regulation book, and if you check it out, and yet no, they'll be like, no, just Google it. You know, that's the norm. And it's also, and the reason I should say it should be a worldwide thing, not just sort of a national thing, is because there are a lot of regimes and governments out there where the internet has played a huge role in saving people's lives, and people talking about corrupt governments, etc. You know, so us having a worldwide and sort of open access internet that everybody can access, and maybe you can pay extra for premium access or whatever, that's fine, but everybody should have a basic rate, right? That's kind of like how I think healthcare should be done. Save everybody's lives when you have to, but you know, if you want to get cosmetic stuff or whatever, you know, pay extra, that's fine. That's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when it comes to it, the nice thing about having utilities run by local government is that you could still have ISPs and they could still provide services, things like email or things like better search engines and stuff like that. So there's still a rule or room for them, but you just don't give them access to the fiber. And actually, in one way you could do it is you could have them turn around, and we talked about jokingly having local municipalities claim eminent domain on the fiber under their streets, basically saying, hey, you're under public roads, this belongs to the public, and thus steal all the actual hardware from the ISPs. You know, literally pull it out from under them.
It's a little unethical.
It happens all the damn time. Government does it for land whenever they want to build a road through an area, stuff like that. Like they have to pay for it.
Yeah, you have to pay back though, right?
And they have to pay for it, but it's at whatever the market value is. So it's not like, you know, the person losing has any say in it. They can't say no. They just have to take what's offered. It's not. It's dirty politics in a lot of ways, but I was saying do eminent domain and then give the ISPs all the ability to come in and rent or pay lease access to those lines and still provide the service to their people. Right? And so it can still be competition. It's just like on the public service, you might get a very bare bones nothing interface. Like, yeah, you have access to the internet, but you better have all your own tools to do it. Where it's just like people who still pay for AOL. Things like that because they like the UI.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, and they like the UI. And so it's still a world.
I don't think that's why. I think they just don't want to change. My internet's worked since the 90s. Why would they change it? Yeah, exactly.
Fine. That's fine, but give people the option and then
relics.
Yeah, so I can see it that way, but it's something that we had talked about when it was Aqua and I discussing what could be done, and so I'm a big proponent of the idea. I know at the same time that where I live would be a very big challenge because the local ISPs and stuff have spent a ton of money lobbying the people that run our government, and so it would have to take the masses of people to get in there and actually say we want this. But so yeah, and a lot of the naysayers are basically just saying, but government couldn't handle it, they'd fail, and it's like, well, they could, but give it a chance. Because, yes, a lot of governments have trouble running even basic things. So there is that risk, but
that's the thing, when it's not profit-driven, it's just a case of, it's just paper pushing at that point. People will just can't be bothered and don't care. But if there's a profit margin somewhere, some manager will be pushing that hard, you know, because that's, in the end, it's his neck on the line or her neck on the line.
Well, there's a difference, because with a public utility and the government running, there wouldn't be a need for upgrades that commercial might push. But again, that could be the thing, right? If the local government can provide gigabit connection, but the ISP can provide 10 gig for a reasonable amount, then maybe you would still choose the ISP. There's still options out there, right? It's just this would provide true competition in every area, anywhere that did it. And that's what I'd look for, because right now we have 2 here in Denver, essentially, and they're barely real competition. Some are available some places, some aren't others, and usually if one's in one area and one's not, the one that's in that area is okay, or if they're both there, one's significantly better than the other in that area, but somewhere else is different. And so it ends up there's not really a choice. And that's the challenge we're dealing with here in at least the Denver area in Colorado. A
lot of competition here, but the problem is that due to the fact that a lot of telecommunication systems set up here were set up when telecommunication systems were invented, right? Like, we have very old infrastructure here. Like, everything is based on phone lines. Really old phone lines. I mean, modern countries, developing countries actually have an advantage over a lot of modern countries in that they don't have this old infrastructure they have to maintain, and don't have all these legacy systems they must connect to. They can actually just say, like, all right, we're going to build fiber, and then that'll do, and then we'll have all of our telephone lines just be done as internet telephony. We can't do that. We just don't have the ability to do that. We have to use the telephone lines because we can't afford to get rid of them all and then replace them all with something else. And so in Britain especially, we have this problem where one big company, British Telecom, owns the vast majority of the phone lines in the UK. And then internet came along. And then people had to suddenly start renting it off of BT. So BT still owns the vast majority of the lines. Fiber's been getting laid by other companies like Virgin Media, but still the vast majority are owned by BT, and it's a unique problem we have here. But at the same time, it still means you can get your internet from elsewhere, and I think BT has been kind of controlled by the government in a way. They say you can some kind of regulation, right?
Yeah, some kind of regulation to keep them working nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it is time for us to get out of here, and everyone out there, as we always say each week, please feel free to let us know how we did and let us know what you thought of what we talked about today. If there's anything you'd like us to discuss for you, just email us in at showx@vtwproductions.com. We check those every week. We'd love to hear from you, know what you've been doing geek, as well as to know, in general, what you think about what we say. But beyond that, Ken, if you would lead us out for today?
Sure. Also, check out the forums, not just because of the art contest, which you should definitely check out and take part in, but also because we actually have a feedback thread in there somewhere. So if you check out all of the threads under go to vtwproductions.com, go to forums at the top, go down to the ShowX board, you'll find the feedback thread and the art contest thread within there. I very much recommend you do both those things. We welcome any help. In fact, I vaguely recently, almost a year ago, recreated the feedback thread so that it's more modern. So I think we only have one comment in there so far. So go in there and add on, and it'll be definitely given attention because it'll be one of the few comments there. And yes, check out the art contest. It's Hogmanay, alcohol, square, snow, digital manipulation, and lastly, women think of all colors except the absence of color. I have said that black has it all. White too. Their beauty is absolute. It is the perfect harmony. And that's a quote from Coco Chanel. So it's a nice mix, very much a range of themes there. So go take part. It's good fun. Okay, you can check us out on patreon.com/showx. You can give us $1 a month minimum there. That'd be very, very, very nice because it keeps our show running, keeps server costs covered, and software licenses and so on. And it's quite expensive to host all of the content of our hundreds of hours and actually thousands of hours of shows that we store on servers. It's not free. So, and all the content licenses to use software to actually broadcast this to you, and all the hardware costs to use our microphones and these cameras do cost money. So, any pennies you can give for a minimum of $1 a month, which is, if you think about it, that's like a quarter, a fifth of a Starbucks coffee. I mean, really? If you can buy one Starbucks in a month, you can definitely afford to support us, and we would appreciate it very much so. Probably more so that you'd enjoy that 1/5 of Starbucks. Check us on twitter.com/DocDead for Mr. Wayne here, twitter.com/GoHex for myself, and twitter.com/ShowX for the show itself too. We only tend to use that for very official show stuff, not really much else. So just shout outs for new show episodes and for show related stuff like the art contest. However, if you want to actually see more content from us, The second place you can find, other than this show itself, is our Facebook. Go to facebook.com and search for Show X, Show Space X. You'll find us fairly easily under the Pages section. And we post stuff pretty much daily in there. Lots of content from other... We also aggregate content from other providers. So it'll be a mix of gaming news and memes and whatever else we feel like sharing, really. All in there. And I think that's pretty much everything. Thank you very much for having me on the show today, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Ken. It's always good to have you. And I look forward to seeing you guys all again next week. So with that, you're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com, and we will catch you guys in the future. Have a good week, and have a good beginning to 2018. We'll catch you guys later. Bye, everybody. And since we don't have the output this time, it'll just be like, goodbye. See you guys next week. All right, we're done.